There you go.
Why not?
Great.
Okay, so that's what we're up to. Again, so we're discussing Nadav and Avihu, that they were punished because they brought an Eish Zorah, the Torah says, a strange fire, which we explained. They brought an incense offering. Ashalot Sif, Hashem did not command them to do that, and they brought this extra incense offering, and for that they were punished. They were killed. We asked that, number one, it seems that, the punishment was fit the crime. It's a very severe punishment. What they do so terrible, and what does that actually mean in Eish Zorah? Why would they do that? Why would they bring in Eish Zorah that Hashem did not command? We pointed out that later on, it seems that the violation was they drank too much wine. They were shisuya yain. They drank, and they entered the base of Mishkan rather, and that's why Aaron was given the admonition to remind his children not to do so. And then we just brought out a couple of other reasons why it seems they were killed. They were mar halach fe'rabim. They answered the question that was posed to Moshe Rabbeinu. What else did you say? Another reason?
Yeah, they were not married. They were single.
They refused to get married. Good. What else?
That's the mission.
You also pointed out that they were really punished for an earlier event when it says by Matan Torah that says they saw Hashem, they ate and drank, but Hashem waited till now. The question is, why does Hashem wait till now? What's the connection? There has to be some sort of connection. Very good. There are other reasons given. Another reason given also is that they refused to cover their hair. Well, they didn't cover the hair when they the heads rather. They didn't cover the heads upon entering the Mishkan.
How do we know that?
Again, it's a Gemara, it's a Chazal, it's a Medrash. It's a Medrash. Yeah.
Also, they didn't want to have any children.
They want to get married.
Oh, they were
Same thing, right? So we have a whole bunch of reasons that really seem to be, we have to connect the dots. There has to be some sort of connection over here. Okay, let's back it up. Number one, this took place, as we pointed out, the opening day ceremonies of the Mishkan. The Mishkan is being opened up. It's the event, right? It's an incredible event on many levels. But what it really speaks of, the Mishkan, this opening day Mishkan also speaks of almost a utopian state, where the Shekhinah, the presence of Hashem, is felt in a very palpable way. It's interesting, there's a Chazal that say that when Mashiach comes, we won't have any more mitzvahs. What does that mean? Right? In fact, we'll sneak a little bit, we'll talk a little bit, the Haggadah a little bit. When the Chacham asks, Ma ha'edus v'achuk mishpatim, when the wise man asks, why the nature of all these mitzvahs? What is he asking? He's saying, why do I need Hashem to tell me what to do and give me rules? I don't want rules. I want to do it because I want to do it. Right? Imagine getting married. I say, okay, these are the rules for a marriage. That totally not rules. Of course, there are certain things you do in a marriage, but you're not doing. Okay, let me follow the rules. The rules say I have to bring flowers on Friday. Right? That's not a relationship. That's not a relationship. And that's the wicked person asks. Mahavoda zos lachem. You turn this into a bunch of rules. Everything's a bunch of rules. And from his perspective, it's a bunch of rules. He doesn't get it. Judaism is not about rules. It's not even a religion. It's a relationship. And of course, relationship has its guidelines, but the main thing, the thrust, is the relationship. And so the wise man is saying, why do I need to be commanded? I want to do it anyway. In fact, the Zohar actually calls mitzvahs like advice, counsel. Hashem is giving us good advice, how to develop, how to grow, how to become better, how to have more pleasure. He calls them not like commandments, but like a piece of advice. And that's the wise man is saying, I want to do it because I want to do it. I want to do it because I'm compelled, because it's rules to follow. Who wants rules, right? As soon as you tell somebody's rules, what are the first thing we think about? How can I break those rules, right? As soon as you tell somebody's a rule, we're thinking about a loophole, right? That's what it is. Nobody wants rules. And it ruins everything. When it says in the times of Mashiach that there won't be mitzvahs, it doesn't mean that we won't have the same concepts, but we won't need them as commandments. We'll be on such a level that we'll automatically know what to do, and we won't need the commandments. Nadav and Avihu thought that's where they're at now. This Mishkan opening is representing an opening into that world. And yes, Ashalot Sif, Hashem did not command, but they didn't need the commandments anymore. They didn't need commandments. As long as they were able to express their closest to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's all they needed. And so they didn't feel they had to follow the books. Okay, they made a mistake. And let's explain the mistake. But understand where it's coming from. It wasn't, just happened to be, it was the opening day ceremony of Mishkan. It was what the Mishkan represented, which in their minds encouraged them to have this kind of behavior. They felt, okay, now we just do whatever we can to bring our close to Hashem. Where did the mistake come from? Where did the fallacy come from? So, another of you, as Moshe Rabbeinu was going to tell Aaron, and you can console him later on, is none of you were punished in the way they were, B'kroi Kodesh, specifically because they're so holy, because they're so great. That's why they're being punished such a way. None of you's mistake was based on a lot of holiness. Let me say what I mean by that. We're going to go to the end of the parasha now to explain what that means, and we'll come back here. The end of the parasha, the Torah tells us about different things we can and cannot eat, and about shrutzim, certain insects, and then it says, because I'm the Hashem that took you out of Egypt. So, what's the connection? So there's a medrash that's very enigmatic. The medrash says, Hashem is saying, you know what? It was worthwhile for me to take you out of Egypt just to give you these commandments not to eat these bugs or these insects, whatever the case is. That's strange. What does that mean? Why, you couldn't give me the commandments not to eat bugs in Mitzrayim and only Adam? It was worthwhile for you to give these commandments, so take you out of Egypt? What does that really mean? So now we'll get a little bit of a sense of what Yetzias Mitzrayim was and what this commandment was. Years ago, a number of years ago, I had a guy who used to come to my classes. He's now pretty big wig in NASA, in Greenbelt. Anyway, he used to beg me every year, Rabbi, you got to come with your family. I want to give you a tour of the thing here. I know, never happened with the kids and everything. So finally, one day it was Chalamoid. We had a little time off. The family, we all go. Okay, so we go to NASA. He shows us around. First of all, they are so, maybe that was changed. They are so not PR savvy. It was the opposite of anything PR savvy. It was so disappointing. We sit down. There's a guy walks in, and he wants to give a little bit like a spiel of what happens here. So he goes, okay, you have the sun, and you have the moon. He looks around and goes, okay. And he pulls out a couple of, okay, so this will be your sun, right? You think that's what have a little bit more, this will be the sun. Then he finds a little ball. This will be a moon, right? You think that have a little more...
Was it just your family that was getting the...
This is my family, yeah. I think it was my family. Anyway, so I said, this is not for me. This is not going anywhere. Anyway, I said, well, let me walk around, whatever case. So I walk around, and there's one place, I don't know, it's supposed to be, not supposed to be. I walk in there, and you walk in, there's a big window pane that goes across the width of the room. And you can actually look up. If you look through the window pane, there's like a whole flight up, it's exposed, and your whole flight down. So you're basically looking at 2 floors or 3 floors. And what you see actually is a lunar module. It looks like a landscape. And what are those rovers? What do you call those things? Those lunar, what I'm talking about? Those
The
walking things, right? Is there. And it's kind of like, they're simulating a lunar walk, where this machine walk on the moon. It's fascinating. This I like to see. And then I noticed an interesting thing. On one wall, it looks like, see that vent over here? This vent here? The whole wall looked like that vent. And the opposite wall was a huge fan, literally a fan. So I said, what's going on? He said, well, you understand, these machines are so precise. The smallest particles of dust mess up the readings. We got to keep blowing the air, and any dust just gets sucked out. So I'm a rabbi. What do rabbis do? Anytime you hear something, you go, okay, how do I turn that into a sermon, right? It's all about the sermon, right? So I'm thinking, where's the sermon? Okay, very simple sermon. You walk into a factory that builds trucks, right? I imagine there could be dust swirling all over the place. No one's concerned. Why? Because the engine is a grosser engine. The more precise something is, the more that anything could set it off, right? The more precision, the more finely tuned, the more that sets it off. If it's not finely tuned, right? A watch, you put a little something in the watch, it messes up the watch. Something bigger doesn't, right? Okay. What's going on? Bnei Yisrael, when they were in Egypt, if they would have eaten these insects that were puzzle, it would not have set their souls off, because their souls yet were not refined souls. Just like in the physical world, with certain food that's, let's say, it's meat that's left out for 2 days, you can't eat it. You might be able to give it to your dog, because your dog has a stronger constitution than you do, right? You have a much more sensitive stomach. Right? Well, spiritually too. There are different levels of spiritual sensitivity. Our souls were not yet quite spiritually sensitive. So eating this non-kosher food would not have been a disturbance. It would not have interfered with who we are. But Hashem said, it's worthwhile for me to take you out of Egypt, and by doing so, endowing you with a much more sensitive soul. Now I can give you this prohibition not to eat this stuff, because now it applies. It wouldn't apply in Egypt. Just like the dog could have eaten that food, you could eat that food. It would not affect your neshama. But now it's more finely tuned. It's more developed. It's holier. The smallest interference is going to make a difference. Okay, and that's how it works with people too. As we grow, and the expectations become higher, not just because we know more, but because we simply have finely tuned our neshamas. So the greater you are, the bigger tzaddik you are, the more the smaller thing you do wrong really affects your neshama. So you and I would have done what Nadav and Avihu did. I don't know if the punishment would have been the same. But because specifically Nadav and Avihu was so great, because they were so holy, this minor infraction that you and I think is minor, for them was a major infraction. And had major implication to their
Yeah,
soul.
but was there already a commandment that Holy of Holies is only for Kohen Gadol and nobody else?
Correct. The
Did
instance
they
offered-
know about it?
The instance, yes.
So
yes.
how come God didn't treat it as a chatat? Like,
What do you mean?
any avera you do, any transgression, except the karet, or
Right.
there should be a
I
punishment.
don't know if this is shogeg, right? This is
Yeah,
not shogeg. This is not shogeg. All right. So, but let's go a little further. Okay. But so they were great people, finely tuned the shamas, and therefore the smallest infraction makes a difference. But where was their mistake? Where was the mistake? So I explained that kind of the background was that they thought this is a special era. It was ushering in a new era with the Mishkan, and even if they didn't have the mitzvah, they could do so. But where did that come from? Where it all came from was a boundless love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They had all this tremendous love for Hashem. Now, that sounds like a great thing. That sounds like a great thing. But you know what? Not necessarily. Love can be dangerous too. If you don't know how to keep it in check, it's sometimes you go over boundaries you shouldn't go over, right? You can love something so much that you do things that don't make sense, right? Because you just love so much. Like say love is blind, so to speak. So that love can sometimes... You lose sight of reality. You're not grounded. Like we say, when someone's in love, he's on cloud 9, right? What does that mean? You're not grounded. That's what it literally means. You're not grounded. And so you don't have certain balances and checks and balances. So they had all this love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But I'll give you an example. You love your parents. You love them. But you know what? And you see them as your best friend. You can't treat them like your best friend. If you love them, but you treat them like your best friend, you've gone overboard. You've overstepped the boundary. Why? Because the love that you have for a parent has to be counterbalanced by a certain amount of reverence and respect. There has to be a balance between love and some people call it yira, call it fear, call it awe, call it respect. There has to be a balance. They were unbalanced. They had all this love for Hashem, but not the proper yira for Hashem. When it says they walked in without their heads being covered, that's what it means. We know, what is this thing called?
A kippah?
What else? A yarmulke. I've
Okay.
told you about it. What is yarmulke? What language is yarmulke?
Yiddish.
Don't say Yiddish. It's not Yiddish. It's actually Aramaic. It's a contraction of two words. Yoreh Malka. Yarmulke is fear of the king. When you put this over here, you're saying there's somebody above me. When it says they didn't have their heads covered, it means that Chazal is describing they didn't have the proper fear. They had all this love for Hashem without the proper balance of, right? And sometimes when you love someone, you kind of get into this space, right? Because you want to be with them. But 1 second, you got to give them that space. You can't just invade their space, right? You have to have a little respect. And respect means you take a step back. Love means you go forward. Respect means you go back. And they had all this love for Hashem without the proper respect. They loved Hashem so much, they said, we can't get married. We're married, which is obviously a wrong concept.
This was the first time they officiated in the Mishkan.
Yes.
Very first time.
Well, they had the Nisim bringing Karbanos, but this is the opening of their ceremonies, yes. Yeah.
Maybe they just didn't have enough practice. In what
Well, no, but they added something. There wasn't a question of practice. They knew what had to be done.
Yeah.
But let's go a little further. So they had all this love without the proper fear, and that's what it means. They didn't cover their heads. That's what it means they didn't get married. They said, I can't. I'm just consumed with Hashem, which is not a Jewish concept. But Christians, have that idea where they're married to God, and they don't get married. The priests, etc., etc. We don't have that concept. But they had all this love without the proper fear. And again, when they answered in front of Moshe Rabbeinu, they had all this love for Torah. They just couldn't hold back. That's what love does, right? They didn't have the proper fear and reverence for Moshe and the Torah that he represented. They had all this love, right? So all these are really the same idea. They're all about. They didn't have that unique and important balance between the proper love, and that's why they were more halacha, and that's why they want to get married, and that's what means they didn't want to cover their heads. It's all part of the same package.
Today, the reason they didn't want to have children because they saw their father and uncle run the whole show, and they don't get any part of it.
Right, okay.
So they
right.
want to have the exclusive
Okay,
right to do that, so there won't be any more children.
That's not, yeah, okay, maybe we'll get to that later, right? It's a different point. Okay, we'll get this point though. Okay, true. So they lacked the balance. It's not a coincidence, people, that Parasha Shemini is the midpoint in Parshas. All the Parshas of the Torah, this is the midpoint. Why? Because it's supposed to teach midpoint is balance. Midpoint means have this extreme, that extreme, and have something in the middle, which brings you kind of the balance, right?
What's the number? It's middle of the parsha, middle of the
No,
Torah?
Shmini is the Parsha, that's the middle of all the Parshas.
Okay.
Right?
What number is it?
Do the math. That must be like 26, 27. That's right. There's like 51 parsha. I don't know what the number is. All right.
Right.
You'll add it up later on. Right. But it's the midpoint because that, in fact, is what he was supposed to learn here. The sense of balance, and they lacked that balance. They didn't know how to. That's what balance is. Balance, by the way, is a mistake. People think balance means compromise. It's not compromise. Balance is the blend of different ideas. It's not the compromise. I have to have Ava, I have to have Yira. How do you blend them together?
This brings up a question,
Yeah.
something I wrestle with every day. The very first thing we say in the morning, Reishis Chachma Yirat Hashem. What does that mean? You know, what do you mean fear of God? I should be afraid? I have to be in awe? What does it mean? You know, and I seem you seem to be alluding to an aspect of it right
Yiras Shemayim, Reish Chachma Yiras Hashem. First of all, it says Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem. It says the beginning of wisdom. It doesn't say you should have fear. It says you should understand the beginning of wisdom is fear. I'll explain what that means in a second. But just if you want to know what Yiras Shemayim means, Yiras Shemayim really, on a very simple level, means that you're always bringing Hashem into the picture. Meaning there's a sense of Hashem's presence the whole time. And you always ask, okay, what would Hashem want? What would Hashem want? Yiras Shamayim means in every action you're doing, there's an awareness of Hashem's presence. And that keeps things in check, right? Imagine if you had a surveillance camera. They're on you all the times, right? They want to put them on the police, right? Because the police will act differently when the cameras are on them. So if you have Hashem as the camera on you, so that hopefully will make sure you're behaving the way you should behave, right? Okay. So that's the general Yiras Shamayim. There's a story about a great rabbi. His name was Yitzchak Eisenkop. Eisenkop in Yiddish means, Eisen means iron, cup means head. When you said he had an iron head, today it sounds like an insult, he's a clod. But iron head means a very strong mind. An Eisen a cup was the ultimate compliment. He's an Eisen a cup means that he has a strong mind. He was called Yitzchak Eisenkop. So there was another Hasidic Rebbe also in town. And everyone flocked to the Rebbe, and this Eisenkop, for some reason, didn't have the same following. And he was very annoyed. He asked one of the Hasidim, I don't get it. Your rabbi is great, he's wise, he's holy, but I also have wisdom, I also have holiness. How come they all go to him and not to me? So the Chassid was very clever, and the Chassid said, I'll tell you why. He said, because our rabbi, our Rebbe, not only is he wise and holy, he knows how to read minds. And not only that, he taught us how to read minds. So this guy took the bait and goes, oh yeah? Tell me what I'm thinking right this minute then. So he said, okay, I'll tell you. You're obviously thinking the first halacha in the Shulchan Aruch, which is Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Summit. When I wake up, I have to have Hashem with me, in front of me, at all times. That's what I'm thinking about all the time. So the guy goes, no, you see, you're wrong. He goes, well, that's why we don't pick you. That's why we picked him. Right? Okay. So, but the bottom line is that's what Yiras Shamayim is. Yiras Shamayim means that you always have this sense of Hashem's presence at all time. And that kind of just makes you act in a certain way. All right? Now, what is Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem? That's a whole different thing. What that really means is, when you study anything, so you always start with a base. There's certain assumptions that you make. There's certain axioms, right? And any course, they'll say, okay, you have to assume this, and based on this, go further, right? Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem means you want to have wisdom, you have to have a filter of Yiras Shamayim first. In other words, it's so hard to really figure out, what's right, what's not right. But when you have a filter of Yiras Shamayim, if you allow that to become your filter, so then you see wisdom from that perspective. In other words, you have to start with the axiom, there's Hashem. And when you have that, now I'm able to take it, this is a bad example. You could look at the world. Somebody wrote an article, and he was describing how a certain plant, that when an insect lands on it, a certain time of the year, when the plant is kind of just soft, and that because it lands a certain way, it bends the leaf over, and that puts the the insect at a certain angle, and therefore allows another ant to mate with it. It's like incredibly precise. It lands this, and he writes this article. At the end, he goes, "How wondrous are the ways of evolution!" Right? Right? That's how right. That's if you have Rashis Chachma, if you have Yer Shemayim, then you'll say, "Wow, how wondrous are the ways of Hashem!" Right? All of a sudden, you look at the world and go, "Wow, look how beautifully tuned, finely tuned this is. Look how precise everything is." But if it's evolution, it's like everything's random, right? That's all it is. So, Rashis Chachma Yer Shemayim. If you start with the premise of Yer Shemayim, then you get Chachma in the proper way. You see in the proper focus, proper perspective. Okay,
See God's hand in the world.
that's just one example.
World.
But you need once you have Yerushalayim as your framework and your filter, then your wisdom takes like this guy's wisdom was, oh look at evolution. If you have Yerushalayim, oh look at the incredibly brilliant Hashem design and what a chesed, what a kindness Hashem did to us that He created this world in such a beautiful, perfect way for us, right? So that's the wisdom we got because we had Yerushalayim to filter the same observance. This guy observes the world and says, how wants to raise the revolution? I observe the world and say, look at the chesed of Hashem that He gave us such a precise world, right? That's because He started with the Yerushalayim to filter the wisdom. Okay, but let's go back.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So let's come back to the picture. So this Shemini is the midpoint. They lack the balance, and they were kind of, there was an imbalance. They went from all this love without the proper balance of the proper respect as well. So let's go back to the Eish Zara. So the Eish Zara was a strange fire. What does that mean? Exactly that. It means fire, yes, it refers to the Ketores, the incense they brought, but fire in general represents a passion. It was a strange passion, means it was an uncalled for passion. It was a passion that transcended the boundaries. They overstepped their boundaries. Eish Zara also means, Eish means fire, but also means passion. And their passion was a misguided passion. In fact, when it says they drank, it wasn't because they just had gone to the local bar, got drunk, and said, "Oh, we got to go." But rather, what it meant was that they were seeking for ways to have a mind-expanding experience. They felt that somehow that by getting drunk and getting lightheaded, or just that would be an opportunity to kind of see Hashem you get high when you drink, right? And this is not the first time this happened, that man is looking for a mind-expanding experience to somehow take in the world in a deeper way. You know the first person that did that was? Who's the first person? What?
Noah.
Before Noah. The first drug was Adam. What he took from the Eitz Hadas. I need to have this tree of knowledge because I want to have a mind-expanding experience. That's what he wanted. He wanted to somehow expand his brain, his mind to see in a different way. Right? And somehow he wanted to incorporate that in a greater way of connecting to Hashem. So this is what they were looking for. But again, it was all the love without the proper balance of the Yer Shemayim as well. That's another viewer. And let's just end, at least this segment. So now we have another view. They didn't have the proper balance. They were great people, so much love, but they didn't keep it in check. The love kind of was not kept in check.
Too much adrenaline.
Too much adrenaline. Just like, again, you can love a parent, but you have to also keep it in check. So you have respect for the parent.
I'm sorry, I have a problem with that.
Yeah?
We say Hashem is like our Father.
Right.
Is Avinu Sheva
Yes.
Shamayim.
Yes.
And it goes back to your question of fear. Is not really fear of, oh, I'm afraid of this guy.
Correct.
No, is a fear of love. Is fear and love is like a father. The way
Yes,
we
so
love our
fear
father. So
doesn't
is
mean right.
that type. It's not really fear. It's
So
the
fear is a
respect.
bad word, because when you think of the word fear, you think like, I'm cowering. Right? That's not what fear is. It's an awe. It's a respect. I think it's a better word. I think the word fear today, we kind of
It's a
think
respect.
of, it's a respect. It's an awe.
So we go back to Nadav and Abihu. They just loved Hashem.
Right.
It's like I don't get it.
I'll give you an example. A woman came to me many years ago. She says, Rabbi, I love God so much. Why do I need all these rules? What she was saying was like, that's what she's saying. She's saying exactly, I love Hashem, so why do I need all these rules, right? Because rules kind of weigh you down, right? They bog you down. But that's exactly what you need. We need to be grounded as well. You have all this love. We talk about cloud nine. It's not grounded. It's not just like with in a relationship. You can love your wife, but it also has to be grounded as well, right? And so
My
that's
wife
what we're
grounds me all the time.
Huh? She grounds you all the time. Very good. All right. Okay. So okay. That's step number one. But let's add one last piece. It was specifically a ketores. It was specifically an incense. They used the sense of smell here in the ketores in this avoda. Why the sense of smell here? Now we talk about smell in Purim, but I'm going to share with you a different thing, and that's the following: that So 1 second. The sense of, let's say a person passes out, right? So you give him some smelling salts to arouse them, right? Okay, but you can't sustain yourself on smelling salts. Then you have to put bread and water into the system, right? The smell is an arousal, it gets you going, but the stuff that keeps you going is the more the bread and the water, the food, whatever the case is, right? So there are people that are looking for the great aroma of Yiddishkeit, but because it's intoxicating, but and it arouses and it lifts your spirits, but it can't sustain. So in life, you need both. You need to be aroused and the sense of smell, whatever the case, whatever you call it, that high feeling. You need that, but that can't sustain you. You need to be grounded by the actual laws themselves, and that's the same thing. The Ketores was that aroma, that smelling salt that arouses you, but you can't sustain just on arousal, on smell. You can't live on the smell. Right? It can't sustain you. It can get you going. It picks you up. But that was their mistake. So, and it's interesting. Yaakov, and let's say it a little differently. Yaakov, when he went to Parasha Shemini, right? He's leaving Esav. He's running away from Esav, and he goes to sleep in a certain place, right? And he has his dream, and it's an incredible dream. It's a ladder, and it's and the Sulam is a gematria of Sinai. He had his own Sinai experience. It was a revelation. Everything, right? Incredible. And he wakes in the morning and he says, "Ochen yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati," which is, this is the place of Hashem. I didn't know. And what does Rashi say means, had I known, I would never have slept here. Now, what's going on over here? Now, sometimes people do things. They say, "Rabbi, this gives me such a spiritual experience." All right, it's such a spiritual experience. I don't want to wade into controversial areas, not controversial. Let's say, giving women aliyos, okay? And a woman tells me, "Rabbi, it was such a spiritual experience." I'm not going to say it wasn't. Maybe it was. Maybe for her, maybe it was. But, you know what? Yaakov had an incredible spiritual experience. But he said, "You know what? I can't do that if I'm not supposed to sleep here. If the halacha says I can't sleep here because it's a makom kadosh, then I would have to forego this great spiritual experience." Yes, I'm not denying the high. Yaakov got a tremendous high from this incredible vision, but he can't do that at the expense of what he has to be grounded with halacha. All right?
There have to be boundaries.
Exactly, and that's what we're talking
You have
about
to
over
respect the
here.
boundaries.
Exactly, and none of you didn't respect the boundaries. That's exactly what we're talking about. Bidiyuk. Okay?
But the punishment was to be burned like
So
that?
we explained. Well, first of all, we didn't go to the punishment itself. We explained that because it was such a high level, it was actually an ashika. It was a kiss. It was Hashem's ashika. Went through the nose, whatever. It was a high level misa. All right. Let's put it that way. Okay. But that's one parasha. Let's do one or two things. Okay. We have kosher. All right. So the Torah goes through the different animals that are kosher and not kosher, and the Torah lists 4 animals that are not kosher, and the last one is the chazir, the pig. And it's clear from different chazal that these 4 animals also represent the 4 different exile groups, right? Not a coincidence, 4 animals, 4 exile groups. And the chazir, therefore, represents, because it's last and last, the final exile. So we have to figure out what is the final exile. Why is that similar to the chazir? So, one of the reasons why it's called a chazir is, the animal, the pig, sits like this with its hooves outside. If it has split hooves, it says, "Look, see, I'm kosher." Right? It says, "Look, I'm kosher." Now, the problem is it doesn't chew its cud, but that's something you can't see. But the outside, it presents itself as kosher. So it's not chazir. It doesn't really chew its cud, right? But it presents itself as kosher. That really is the final gullus. What is that final gullus? The final gullus is that there's a veneer. There is this presentation that, look, we're kosher. We're all moral. We're all good. And this veneer, whereas inside is rotten to the core. And even more than that, not only is it duplicitous, not only is it misleading that, there's a veneer of kosher, not kosher, now morally kosher, but not, it's kind of what we expect. Again, I'm not wading into political season, but today, we also, as long as he acts presidential, I don't care what he does behind closed doors, right? As long as the veneer looks good. That's what we're saying now. He acts presidential, he looks presidential. I'm not saying that doesn't mean that. I think it's very important to know how to act presidential, show respect for the office. I'm not dismissing that. But it can't just be that. It can't be just the veneer. And today it's all about veneer. It's all marketing. And that is, and let's say it differently, it's not just the presidents. It's all about image today. Everything about, and what is image if not just the veneer presentation? And it's all about image today. You don't almost care what you do, but what's your image? How do you project your image? And that's the final gullus of Edom. The chazir is this presentation. We're kosher. And so we live in a society that sometimes we're not on guard because yes, we're a moral, civilized country. We're a moral, civilized world. And we're all about decency. And so we kind of let our guard down. We realize that decency is just really skin deep. If you really go beneath the surface, there's not a lot of decency going on. There's not, right? So that's what that represents. And if you take it a little further, the Parsha also talks about how things become tamei, not tamei, and it's a fascinating thing that we know if metal becomes tamei, it could be purged, right, through a libun process or a gula process, either you boil it in hot water or you through direct fire. But cheres, pottery, if it comes tamei, you break it. You can't purify it. But it has become tamei. So unlike metal, where when it comes in contact with the metal, the impure thing makes the metal impure. By cheres, by pottery, it doesn't work that way. Contact doesn't make it impure. It has to go inside the pottery. It has to go inside the clay to make it tummy. Why is that? Why is it different? So I think Meshach Chachma says this, but it's a beautiful lesson. Metal by itself is intrinsically valuable. Gold is gold. Whether you make it into a clay or not, gold has value. All metal has value. Dirt has no value until you make it into a vessel. The ground itself doesn't have value. It's its function that gives its value. Right with me? So something only becomes tamei if it's something of value. Something that doesn't have value doesn't become tamei. That's why tissue paper won't become tamei. Certain things won't become tamei because they have no value to begin with. It has to be a certain size beged to become tamei because less than that size, it's not valuable. So only something of value become tamei. Okay, so gold is valuable by itself. Any metal has value by itself. It becomes tamei by contacting it. The only way to make something pottery tamei is if you matame its value, which is its function. So only if the animal or whatever goes inside, which is its function, and it's matame its value, its function, is when it becomes tamei. You follow? With me so far? So where am I going with this? As far as just talk about this a bit, that really we're all kli cheres. What are we made out of? We're also pottery. What's our value? Well, what's inside of us, right? Not the veneer, not the outside. Not the outside. The outside is going to break. You have to break the kli cheres. The body's going to be gone. What's valuable is who we are on the inside. And we sometimes tend to forget that when we put more of a premium and a value on the outside, on the veneer, on the surface, and that's the gullus of Chazir, that's the gullus of Edom. But here it's just the opposite. The Torah is saying the human being's value is his inside, his function, not his outside, just like the kli cheres. And often we kind of flip them around and we put more value on the image on the outside than what's going on inside. What car you drive, or whatever, you name it. It's all about that image as opposed to what's going on
You
inside.
just reminded me I need
Yes.
a nicer car.
Huh?
You just reminded me I need a nicer car.
Okay. All right. What do you do with the old one? They pass it on to me. There you go. All right. Okay.
Make it a Rebbe car.
There you go. So it says, the pasuk says, "V'chol kli cheres," and page 602, which read the pasuk, "V'chol kli cheres asher yipol mehem al teichai." Anything that something tamei falls inside of it, kol asher b'teichai yitma. If it goes inside the vessel, it's tamei. The oysters, that you have to break, right? If it's inside. I'm just going to kind of conclude with again a Pesach analogy, just to get us a little taste in Pesach. Here it says the word besocha, right? If you mitame inside the keli, that's when it becomes tamei. We say in Haggadah, "Behiver Yisrael mitoichem," that Hakadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim and eventually took us split the sea. Behiver Yisrael mitoichem. Mitoichem means from the midst, right? But mitoichem means something else also. The heavy Yisrael, Hakadosh Baruch Hu was able to allow Bnei Yisrael to transcend mitochem from what was inside themselves. It was because they had a toch, because they had the greatness inside of them. The heavy Yisrael, how did that happen? Mitochem, because of their toch, because what they really had the inside. And so we have to really value the inside and not just the outside. Okay. think we'll stop over here because those are the main points I wanted to cover. I wanted to cover the Shu Yayin, another view, the midpoint of Shmini, and talk about the kosher and not kosher, as well as the sheretz that only becomes a value an issue once they leave Mitzrayim and they finally tuned, or they have now finally tuned the neshamas. That makes a difference. I'll just tell you, if you look at page 596. This one pasuk will end, which is up in Russia. This is right before the kosher laws. Right before the kosher laws. By the last pasuk, Chav. Vayish Moshe, vayita be'inav. Vayish Moshe heard, and it was good in his eyes. But that was Aaron explained to Moshe Rabbeinu why he did what he did. It was a law that Moshe had known, and Aaron explained to him. So, somebody once said, Vayish Moshe was always on the talking yet. Moshe was always talking. Right? He's teaching. Right? Vayisha Moshe. This is the first time Moshe had to listen and learn. He was on the student end. Vayita be'enav. Oh, that was good in his eyes. It's good sometimes to be a listener also. In general, I always tell people, when you talk, you're saying something you know already. When you listen, you might hear something new. Right? People love to talk. But when you talk, what are you saying? You're just saying something you know already. Vayishma Moshe. Moshe heard. That was a good experience for him. Wow, he got to listen. He's always on the talking end. Well, they had that achrayis. But Vayisha Moshe, they say, why do we have two ears and one mouth? You're supposed to listen twice as much as you talk. All right? Vayishma Moshe, Vayita be'enav. And we have to become better listeners. And that's really a really important point that we sometimes we forget that. We forget that. We don't realize the tremendous importance of being able to listen, to observe. Vayishma Moshe, what an experience for him. Vayita be'enav. All right, we'll stop here. We'll pick it up next
Rabbi,
time.
if you go back to page 494, 594, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The beginning of the Chamishi Aliyah,
Yeah.
there is an asterisk.
Darash
Exactly.
Moshe.
That's the center of Torah. So that's what
Yeah.
it says.
Chatzar b'tevis.
Yeah. And what they say, this is all about because Moshe and Aaron were exchanging opinion.
Yeah.
As you said
Yes.
before,
Yes.
it's a give and take, it's
Right.
a balance.
Right. Very nice.
Even there
Yes.
was room for Moshe to learn.
Correct. And here it points out
That's the whole.
it's a chatzei Torah b'tevis.
Yeah.
Here. I'm sorry. Here it says not the midpoint of the parashas. Here it says it's the midpoint in words.
In the word.
Darash Moshe says the word darash twice. So the first darash is the first half of the Torah. So it's the midpoint in the words themselves.
Midpoint of the letters or words?
Words.
Words.
In other words,
Words.
the actual count. Right?
Right. Midpoint of the words. All right. We'll stop here, people.
Are we going to do a little something like this before Pesach?
Hope so. Hope so. Yeah.
How was your Purim, brother?
Purim was great. Because I remember everything, but by the Purim Suda, I got a little happy, but it was good. I told somebody that there was a guy who was drunk and was stumbling around the streets like midnight time. So the policeman stops him and said, "You can shut it off. You don't need it." So the